we have Fire and Blood by George R. R. Martin. Now, one of the things that I do when I go out and I look at books is me personally. I know I should not be judging a book by its cover, but I do because one thing that pisses me off tremendously is when the author's name is bigger or of equal size than the book title because I'm there for the book. I'm not there for the author, right? I could give a rat's ass what your name is. I care about the book, right? And what I value a lot is how much effort or how creative, how they use the cover of the book, right? One thing that pisses me off is when a movie comes out and it's an adaptation of the book and they just completely strip the book of its original artwork or of different versions of the artwork and then just put the poster of the movie on the front, right? That pisses me the fuck off, right? There's a certain just like charm that an author puts into the cover of his book, even if it's bad. I like knowing this is the cover that the author wanted. When the author and the title of the book are the same size, I fucking hate that, right? I fucking hate that. That being said, I like this book. I really did like this book. Fire and Blood was an addicting read. I read this after watching season 1 and 2 of House of the Dragon, and I decided, you know what? Season 3 is never gonna come out, and when it does, I'm gonna have grandkids. So I'm just gonna read this book now. I'm just gonna enjoy it now, and if it sucks, well, then it sucks. If it sucks, well, so the show already sucks, and it's not gonna fix it, right? And if it's good, well, the show already sucks, and it's not gonna get any better, right? So I went in, and like it is extremely descriptive about a lot of stuff. It seldom glosses over a lot of stuff. If you don't like it when books just gloss over certain things and just do not like give you a satisfying account of an event happening, this book is not your enemy. This book will tell you everything that happens. You will get to when it says the Targaryen history, it really does mean a Targaryen history. Just like how people hate going to history class and learning about the American like fucking revolution because it's just boring and it's just a slog to get through because you don't care of all these like people and all these events that happened because they were so long ago. This is exactly how reading this book is going to feel. If you don't like that, this book probably isn't for you. I don't like history all that much. It's whatever. But I like fiction. I like what's the word? What genre is this? Historical fiction. I like the historical fiction, and it made it. I like knowing more about the Game of Thrones world. I thought that was cool. So you get to know a tremendous amount of detail about the world, even unrelated to the Targaryens, right? So that's a good detail. Unfortunately, right, and it's a big unfortunately. Unfortunately, the second it get like that, that's a big plus because you're talking about interesting things, right? So you get a tremendous and copious amount of details, but that's good because you're talking about stuff that interests you. The downside is that the second, and I do mean the second, you start talking about something that isn't interesting when you're in a historical fiction book, it gets extremely, extremely boring. For me, at least, right? Because you don't care, and with George R. R. Martin's style and the fact that it is you're supposed to treat it like a history book, you get a copious amount of details of something you could care less about, and because he doesn't gloss over things, it goes on for an extremely long amount of time, right? Now, if you do like it, well, no problem, right? To each their own if you do like it. But if you don't, you are going to have a tough time. For me specifically, that was the Jaehaerys Targaryen section, and if I'm not mistaken, that's around the 45% mark around, I would say. I don't remember exactly where in the book it is, what pages, but I do know it happens for a tremendously long time because the character lived for a tremendous amount of time. And like I said, at most, George R. R. Martin's gonna gloss over 2 to 3 years. At most. Other than that, you will be learning about everything that happened on every fucking month of that day of the year. Of that year, right? For the Jaehaerys Targaryen, there are important, and all of it's important, but there are interesting things that happen from time to time, but most of it is a slog. Most of it is a slog precisely because his reign is extremely peaceful, and most of the time he's just building roads, he's just improving the infrastructure, he's settling a dispute with some guy a thousand miles away, and with another lord that's just being a dickhead. 2,000 miles away, right? And you honestly just don't care by that point because it doesn't affect anybody for like another 2 to 3 years just because of how slow things move. And it gets to a point where he's like talking about so many things, you cannot keep a track of everything that is going on at one time. So you start forgetting one plot line he's moving forward, and then he's introducing five other plot lines. And by the time you're halfway through those five other plot lines, you catch up on the first plot line that he's finished. And by that point, you're just like, can we move forward, please? By the end of Jaehaerys's thing, that's when things start wrapping up, obviously, because that's when the main part of the story kicks in. So it ends. It starts strong, strong parts in the middle, ends strong. Unfortunately, it's golden nuggets in a large pile of shit, right? That's the unfortunate part. You have to get through a lot of dog shit to get to the good parts. After that, it's just bangers, 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 right? After that, the book gets absolutely good. It's addicting to read. The characters go crazy. That being said, the characters don't really have a personality aside from the main characters because of the nature of a history book. You don't read a lot of the characters' thoughts. You don't get to know more motivations. You're reading it from a third party source, and unfortunately that means you miss a lot of those personal moments, right? You get a few of them, but you'd miss on most of them, in my opinion, which is a shame. It is a shame, but it makes up for it. You don't feel like you're missing out on a lot. Thank God. You really don't. Another thing is, let me sell these. Another thing I would say is that it's very like descriptive. Like as someone who's only seen the show, who's seen 4 seasons of Game of Thrones, because I'm not going past season 4, and seen the 2 seasons of House of the Dragon, I can very vividly picture scenes that have not occurred in the book, that I know will not occur. Sorry, that haven't occurred in the show, that I know will not occur in the show. Um, and it doesn't bother me, right? Because because it's so descriptive, it's so vivid, you can see it happening. There are plenty of scenes with the dragons that you feel like you're in there. You're like, holy shit! Like I'll be reading some of these lines with like some of the dragon fights, and I'll be like, damn, bro. Like if that doesn't happen in the show, the rating's going down another star, right? Because it's so good. And like there are some scenes that are like action scenes that are better done somehow. They're better done in the book than they are in the show, despite the show having the benefit of visuals, right? Which is a shame because you'd think it's the other way around. You think at the very least, okay, well maybe the dialogue scenes are better in the book, but at least the action scenes are going to be good. Nope, the action scenes, some for the most part, are better in the book, much better, much 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 better. Um, so that's a shame. The book extremely descriptive. Very few characters have personalities, but I already got into that. That's just the nature of a history book. Aside from the sections that are a chore to read, everything is really nice. Everything is really well. The pacing, aside from the Jaehaerys section, the pacing is very, very seamless. You really feel like things are moving forward, even when things are taking months. Sometimes an entire plot line will take like over the course of years, but your perspective, from my perspective, it feels like it's only been weeks because just how fast everything is and just how like immersed you are in the world. So that's a good. I love that. I was expecting it to be like a chore to read the entire time, but no, it really wasn't. Um, I will say the downside of it being a history book, like I said before, missing those character moments, is that you don't really feel that personal connection to any of the characters like you would in the show, which is a shame because you want to connect with the characters. You want to feel like when one side loses, you're really like, oh man, like that sucks. Like that really does suck. The book is much less about sides, and it just kind of tells it as it is. The show is much more focused on the Targaryen side, the black side. This is just the nature of the book. You were never gonna get that to begin with. You miss out on it, um, and it is a shame. But it doesn't bring the book down. It really doesn't. It just sucks that it's not there. But it's like having a 5 course meal, 3 Michelin star meal, the best of the best food you could possibly have, the best drinks, right? You walk out of the restaurant amazed, but you don't get dessert, right? So like you're like, you're like, damn, no dessert, like it sucks, but the experience isn't brought down whatsoever. right? That's what it feels like. You get a world-class meal, you just don't have dessert, which sucks. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 star purely because of the Jaharis section. If that Jaharis section was just much more interesting to read, I think it would have given it a 5 out of 5 star because there are very few. There are very really all I can think of, if not for the Jaharis sections, is just nitpicks, just little things that are just preferences. That's really it. There's really nothing blatantly wrong, any like clear mistakes, anything that just doesn't feel right. It's just preference by that point, right? Which is amazing, which is great. Yeah, 4 out of 5 stars. Just wish they didn't have that just hair section. That's fire and blood for you. And yeah, can't wait to read the next book.